Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AI Agents Hackathon live streams.
The AI Agents Hackathon is a free virtual hackathon running from April 8th to April 30th.
We're hosting over 20 live streams where you'll learn how to build agents using various Microsoft technologies. At the end of the 3 weeks, submit your project for a chance to win fantastic prizes.
And now over to our friends at Reactor.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the AI Agent Hack. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to review our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer live. Our session is recorded. It will be available to view on demand within 24 to 48 hours. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Paulo.
Hey, Kamal.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Oh, great. I'm all excited for this year of AI Agent, and we're going to see what this 3-week virtual hackathon is all about and how we can deep dive into the AI agent development. What do you say?
Oh, definitely, I can't wait. So, do you want to start this session?
Yeah, great. So today's session is all about building and extending agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'm Kamal. I'm a developer advocate here at Microsoft. I build around M365, and I also have my colleague Paolo, and I'll give the pleasure to introduce yourself, Paolo.
Yeah, thank you, Kamal. Welcome everyone again. I'm Paolo Pialorsi, and I'm a senior developer advocate working together with Kamal and many other folks with the goal of spreading knowledge about how to extend Microsoft 365 and specifically Microsoft 365 Copilot. Today, in fact, we are going to do exactly that. So we are going to talk about how you can build and extend agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot. So let's dig into the content and let's start talking about the actual topic of this session. Microsoft 365 Copilot is the UI for AI as we define it in Microsoft. And in fact, you can use it from most of the applications available in the Microsoft 365 offering, of course, from the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat interface, but also from Microsoft Teams, from the Office client applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, and so on and so forth. And under the cover of Microsoft 365 Copilot, there is the large language model providing the AI capabilities, the Microsoft 365 apps, the content that you have in your tenant, in your organization, available through Microsoft Graph, and eventually through Microsoft Dataverse if you work with the Power Platform. And of course, you also have access to the whole content that we have on the web. And when using your natural language, you can interact with Microsoft 365 Copilot and get answers about topics and questions and prompts that you will provide to the AI engine of Microsoft 365 Copilot. When you do that, you can also extend the out-of-the-box capability of Copilot, creating the so-called Copilot agents that we recently introduced as a new capability to extend and enrich the user experience of user interacting with Copilot. So a Microsoft 365 Copilot agent is an assistant, an intelligent assistant that allows us to add additional knowledge, additional grounding data, additional skills, and process automation to improve skill and knowledge of the out-of-the-box offering of Microsoft 365 Copilot. And just to give you an idea, let me briefly show you a few short videos that will show you how you can benefit of Copilot agents. So here, for example, you can see that when you are using the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, you can find on the right panel a list of agents that you can rely on, and you can even create your own agent with Copilot Studio Agent Builder. You can also mention your agents if you want to have a direct conversation with a specific target agent and you want to get the result of a prompt from a specific agent you want to target. Here, for example, you can see the immersive experience of an agent in Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, where you can provide a prompt, you can get an answer, you can provide prompts which will give you answer with citations and details about additional content that you can dig into, or you can provide functionalities like, for example, consuming an external API, which allows you to get additional content and results in the answer you get from the agent, as well as you can rely on Adaptive Card to provide a nice looking user experience to your end users. Moreover, we are also going to make it possible to use the agent in the UI that you have inside the Office client application. Like, for example, here in a Word document, you will be able to select the text, you can activate the Adobe Express agent, and you can provide a prompt to generate an image based on the content that you highlighted. And you will be able to insert that image in the document, and the image will be just generated on the fly by the agent that you are going to use. So this is really powerful, and this is a really great set of capabilities that you are going to leverage to have a better user experience when consuming AI with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Isn't it true, Kamal?
Very true, Paolo. I totally agree with it. So yeah, moving on to the declarative side, or building agents for any job. So what is that one thing that varies in level and complexity and the capabilities depending on your needs? Because every day you have a different scenario, different use cases, and how do I build my agent or how do I cater it? So here we have kind of divided into like a three category, say very simple, advanced, and a minimal thing. Now, when I say a very basic retrieval agent, it actually allows you to just retrieve information based on the grounded knowledge so that you can helps you to summarize and answer questions. Simple, straightforward. Now, if I have to go one layer deep, say for example, I have an agent that can go actions and call out external system, or even in your own lines, if it has to go your call your own line of business system to do things behalf of the user, then I would go more on a task-based agent. So if I say, Kamal, you know what, I have a little more complicated one, a little more customized, then a most advanced scenario would come into picture. That is where that autonomous agent actually can go plan a set of tasks for you without having the user interact with the interface all of the time. So let's take a look at an example of all these agents. Yeah. So you can say the moment you have a requirement from your client saying, Kamal, I need to build an agent. So what kind of an agent? You can think about an IT help desk. You can think about desk refresh agent, a Jira ticket, lead gen agent, project tracker, expense report, or even a customer support agent. Or for the matter, say you have a task where you have to go through all the invoices that you have to upload, or you have to go through all the soft copies of a resume to find a proper candidate, then I can build an agent to do that for me. Say, for example, I have 20,000 receipts, which has all unstructured data from the date, time, task, or even a category, and then a amount, and with the date and an invoice number. And I want just only three details: the final amount, what was the product detail, and the date. Think if I had to find out something manually, if I had to do it. Think about the time consuming, think about the errors that is being prone to. So in that case, if I build an agent which can actually go through all these details and put me in an Excel sheet, that is where your agents are really going to help you. So that's the kind of agent that we are looking for. So moving on to the next slide. Agents come in all shape and sizes. Trust me, you have a very simple agent just to answer your query, or there is an agent to do a little more complicated task of scanning an image, or an agent which does an analysis. A lot of things happen. But each agent is made up of the same component. So if I say an agent has a foundation model, it has an orchestrator that runs, taps into that knowledge, skill, and autonomous process. And these are the capabilities to do, and may or may not have user interfaces. But Microsoft Copilot is that one big agent behind the screen. So now, as a developer, as someone who's building an agent, you have to go one layer deep in order to understand this architecture. Because just knowing the prompt, just knowing the use cases, not getting hallucinated with the response is not enough. So you need to know where are your area of genre, where you can actually touch, where you can actually work. If I go with Microsoft 365 orchestration and everything of M365, then I don't have to touch on the shades that are in red. I'll have to only manage the purple section. So that depends on what kind of agent you build and what's your use case. So Microsoft 365 Copilot may call other agents also. There are scenarios where you might come an agent calling another agent. That is also a very interesting feature. You might think about it because it's just not going to be one agent, right? So these are the things, or it can bring new skills and knowledge. So moving on to the next slide. So now let's talk about the two paths you can take building agents. Okay, Kamal, I got to know what an agent is. I have an idea to build an agent, and I know also few details about the architecture. Now tell me which one to go. Should I go with declarative or should I go with custom engine? Should I go with extending M365 or should I go building my own agent? So you might have all these questions. So now you'll get a very clear path. We have divided into two sections like declarative agent and custom engine agent. So you can extend M365 Copilot by adding skill knowledge on the top. So do you remember the architecture where we were talking about? So that means the model, the orchestrator is part of M365 Copilot. You do not have any control of it. So you're building a very simple agent just to retrieve few information, and you're happy with M365 orchestrator and part of M365 Copilot, then you can go for declarative agent. On the other hand, if you prefer to use your own model, you say, Kamal, you know what? I have my own model. I want to use my own orchestrator. I want to be independent of Microsoft Copilot. Then you are creating what we refer to as custom engine agent. So the path involves building from ground up, giving up complete control and optimization. So you can build them using both low code tools such as Copilot Studio. There is no one way to build it. You can do this as, or you can go ahead with the pro code tools such as the Visual Studio Code, which we will be showing you in a couple of minutes how it really looks like. So which is what we are focusing on today. Always remember this one point. As a developer, as a technical expert, you know which agent you are choosing one, whether declarative or custom engine. But from the end user point of view, he will not understand if this is coming from a declarative or custom engine. All he sees is, or he or she would see is the response. So that is something as a user or as a developer you need to understand. The responses will be similar irrespective of what you use. It's all behind the functionality, how it actually works. So, and with that said, yeah, on to you, Paulo, where he's going to give you more overview on the Copilot Studio side.
Yeah, thank you, Kamal. And yes, in this session, our goal is to give you an overview and a better understanding of what the options are. Then there will be additional deep dive sessions in this series of sessions in the AI Agent Hackathon, where you can dig into the declarative agents implementation or the custom engine agent implementation or the Copilot Studio agents making, because usually when we use Copilot Studio, we talk about making agents and not building agents. So now I want to give you an idea of what you can do when you choose to create agents using Microsoft Copilot Studio. So if you think about the architectural diagram that Kamal just showed us a few slides ago, here, when you work with Microsoft Copilot Studio, the overall idea is that the foundational model is the one provided out of the box by Microsoft Copilot Studio, as well as the orchestrator is the one provided by MCS, Microsoft Copilot Studio. On the other side, you can provide custom instructions and custom grounding data to enrich with additional knowledge base the out-of-the-box behavior of the engine of the agent that you are building. You can also add custom topics and action to provide specific skills to your agent. And you can also rely on the autonomous part of the agent using the so-called autonomous agents, which can be easily created with Copilot Studio. From a user experience point of view, as Kamal said, the user interface is an optional part of the architecture, but when you build an agent with Copilot Studio, typically the user experience will be hosted inside the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat experience or in Teams with a bot-like user experience. But you can also rely on many more channels that you can use to publish your agents, for example, in other technologies, so that you will be able to use the same agent in a public website or in a website where you want to use authentication in place. You can use it on a mobile device and so on and so forth. So you have plenty of options, plenty of channels that you can rely on to publish and make your agent available. Once you create your agent, well, it is up to you then to define what is highlighted in purple color. So let me switch to my demo environment and let me show you in practice what is the potential of creating agents with Copilot Studio and what you can do. So now I'm switching to my environment and I'm going to show you something real. And here I have an agent that I created using Copilot Studio. The goal of this agent is to help an hypothetical HR department and the users of an HR department to select candidates and to manage a list of candidates for eventually organizing interviews with them. So here I define an agent. I don't want to dig into all of the implementation details of this agent. My goal now is to give you an overview of what you can do, what the potential is of this technology. But I'm just telling you that with this agent, we can manage HR department related tasks. For example, in this agent, I created a few topics to manage the list of candidates. And as you can see, we have one topic which will be a conversational flow that we can use to interact with the user to register a new candidate. And we can rely on an external service that I will show you shortly. We can also rely on actions so that we can ask to the agent to execute action for our user. And for example, I have an action to get the list of all of the candidates available through an external service that I'm relying on. And I'm talking about an external service because here I'm in Copilot Studio, I'm relying on the Power Platform, and I'm using a Power Platform custom connector, this one, HR Services, which is nothing more than a wrapper in the Power Platform world to consume an external API. So what is this external API? Let me show you. Here I have one REST API that I created as an Azure function with TypeScript. And in this one, I have a set of operations, like, for example, one to get the list of candidates, one to get a single candidate, to add or remove candidates from an hypothetical list. As you can see, the API is listening locally on my machine, but I also have a dev tunnel to make it available to the Power Platform. And what I'm going to do now is to use this API through my agent using natural language to interact with the API and to get content from the API itself. So back to my browser. In the agent, I can, for example, provide a prompt like the following one: list the candidates from the external HR service. By triggering this prompt, the agent in Copilot Studio will understand, based on my natural language prompt, that I want to get the candidates from the service. I can get, as you can see right here, from the activity map, information about the content that I've got back from the REST API that I'm consuming. And specifically, I can see the list of candidates with their name, their email, their skills, and spoken languages. And here on the right side, in the right panel, in the Test Your Agent panel, I can see the actual output from the test UI of MCS. But of course, we want to see this agent in action, for example, in Teams. So if the UI we want to rely on is Microsoft Teams, here I have my agent waiting for an additional prompt. So what we can do here is, for example, let me start over just for the sake of it. We can start over and we can provide to this agent a prompt to add a new candidate to my list of candidates. Of course, yes, I want to start over. And so here is my prompt: add a new candidate. Now, by providing this sentence in natural language, the agent will provide me back based on the topic that I define in the agent, an adaptive card that I can use to provide the data of the candidate that I want to register in my system, which could be, for example, an hypothetical John White with an email john.white@contoso.com with a role of senior developer, just to make an example, who speaks English and why not Italian, and with the skill of computer programming and Teams lead. So this is my candidate. This is the candidate that I want to store in my external service. Now that I trigger this action, you see candidate added to the list of HR candidates. Now, before doing something else with my agent, let me switch back to my REST API. As you can see right here, we can verify that the user consuming the API is myself. So I have authentication in place. So the message for you is you can consume an external API in a secure way with open authorization in place and with security in place. I was able to invoke the get candidates operation from the test UI of MCS, but now I also invoke the add candidate API from the Teams UI. So I'm interacting with this API through the Power Platform connector and through the agent defined in MCS. But now I can do more, of course. Now that I added my new candidate, I can go back to Teams and I can say, okay, list the candidate again, now that I'm using the Teams UI and now that I added a new candidate right now. So let's see, and we will get back the updated list of candidates, including John White, that I just registered in my application. And this is really, really cool. But we can even do more. For example, we can rely on the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat interface. And as I was showing you before, in the right side panel, you have the list of agents available for your Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. Here I have this agentic HR, which is nothing more than the same agent I was using before inside Teams, inside the Teams user experience, but now integrated with the immersive experience in the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. But I can still use the same syntax and I can still use natural language to provide a prompt and to get back a list of hypothetical candidates from my HR service through my agent. By doing that in Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, of course, every now and then there are a few hiccups, so let me refresh this page. That's the beauty of a live demo. But in the worst case, I can show you that this is running in a video, don't worry. But now we are running on a beta environment on our side, so every now and then there are little hiccups. Now you can see I have the capability to invoke my API, and Microsoft Copilot is asking me to consent to consume the external API. So I will say, yes, allow once to consume this API, and the agent will be able to still consume the same REST API still through the Power Platform connector and giving me back the list of candidates still based on the same backend infrastructure. So really, really powerful and really useful to create real business solutions. So now back to you, Kamal, and please feel free to share your screen. Thank you.
Hey, Paolo, that was an awesome example. I can think of building an agent and using it in Teams, overview, and also getting it on M365 chat experience. I think definitely the audience will get a glimpse of it, and they can kind of relate their experience with it. So are you able to see my deck?
So yes, we need to switch to your screen, Kamal.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can. Okay, please start sharing your screen, Kamal, so we can then share it with the audience.
Yes.
And let's start talking about declarative agents then, which is the next stop for our session.
So you're able to see my slides?
Yeah.
Paolo?
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect. Go ahead.
All right. So remember we were talking about the agent and then we decided how do I discuss or how do I confirm if it's going to be declarative or custom, and then Paolo came up with a beautiful demo and explaining about the custom engine part or few of the studio part, and he will get back to the custom engine part in few minutes. So before that, let's start with the declarative, which is a very simple one. And before that, you remember the architecture which I was talking about, where you have the orchestrator, foundation model, user experience. So we are going to go a little deep dive into it. So as I told you, now declarative agents looking at the architecture stack, it's kind of leveraging all the M365 Copilot stack. It's running on the same foundation model, orchestrator as M365 Copilot, and it is using the user experience inside the Copilot chat interface. So declarative agents already has information from M365, so you don't have to provide. The area that you have to concentrate is the purple section, the knowledge, skill, and autonomy. So what does the knowledge and skills looks like? So you can see that? Yeah. So we're gonna dive a little deep into the knowledge and the skills part. So knowledge involves gathering of data. We know that it's all about data, right? From connectors, SharePoint, OneDrive, where all I can fetch the data and I can have my agent interact with it, get information, and give me the result, right? In terms of skills, you can actually enable your agent to invoke custom REST API. So we also have the out of box, which I can think about, like image generation or even a code interpreter. You can come up with things like that. Say, for example, I have a prescription from the doctor. And if I feed these details into an agent, I should be able to get a complete analysis as to what this prescription actually tells, what is the underlying disease that I have, what medications or first level or first degree of medications that I have to take, and what are the other treatments that I can approach. Think about those kind of an agent where you can actually generate images or scan a prescription and do an analysis, or even query the API, bringing data back and taking the data to create a Python script on the fly. You can come up with any example, any agent, any idea you have an agent that you can build. Generate an image and put it straight back into the agent. So you just need to enable code interpreter, executed Python code on your behalf. So that is the kind of things that you could actually think about when you're building agent and the declarative agent JSON file. Now moving on to the demo part, let me quickly share my screen. All right, so here I have a very simple example where a simple agent is being built to have the geolocator app, okay? So as Paolo explained that this is the tray section, sometimes you might not see the agents here. All you have to do is pull it up and you have the geolocator part. I'll come to the coding part after showing you the demo, then you will be able to relate it. So in order to enable it, I have the geolocator app here. So all I say is getting started. So I click on these cards and say, I'm ready to play this geolocation game. Give me a city and I can guess and start with the first clue. So all I say is enter. I have the prompts enabled for you. Think I don't have a prompt. So it says, welcome, the city is located where two continents meet. Can you take a guess of the city? So first I'm going to give a wrong city. So I'm going to say Milan. Let's see, Paolo, whether Milan kind of takes it. No offense, I love Milan. So it says, nice try, here is your next clue. So it is trying to interact, get more information from me saying, the city is famous for its magnificent structure. But that's not what we're looking for. Do you want to take another guess? You need more clues? I'm going to say, how about Rome? So it says this is a city where two continents meet. So if you know the answer, just leave in the comment section. So it says, again, a nice try, but the city has rich history and a lot of other details. So I'm going to come up with the answer saying it's going to be Istanbul. And then voila, that's correct. You guessed the city in 3 clues and you earned 5 points. So would you like to play another round or try a special challenge? So these are the kind of agent that you can build, a simple game. Now I'll come to the coding part, how this is all being structured. So I'm gonna start a new chat again, and I'll show you another example where I'm saying, I'm ready for a challenge. Let's try something different. Can we play around using the traveler's diary? And that's when I say enter. It actually picks up a few details from a PDF which was available on the SharePoint. So I'll also let you know how you can link your files from the SharePoint, OneDrive, or anywhere that you store your agent can pick it up and interact and display details from it. What else can you do? That's the best part that you can think. You have tons of data available, but how do I make my agent know about it, get the details, and display it? So now coming to the coding part. So the Visual Studio. Yeah. So I'll quickly open the Visual Studio in the meantime. So do we have some questions in the meantime, Paolo, that we can take by the time I open my Visual Studio?
Look at the chat. Okay. Oh, there is a question about the SharePoint agents. You can build agents on top of SharePoint data that sit right on the site. Yeah, there's a question. So basically, yes, you can create also agents with SharePoint. Those are called SharePoint agents and are built on top of a site or of a document library in a site. That's under the cover a declarative agent. So what Kamal is talking about right now. And you can even see if you create a SharePoint agent that you can export, you can save the .agent file and see that inside the file there is the same JSON that Kamal is going to show you now, I would say, because I see Visual Studio Code on the screen. So please, Kamal, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paolo. That was a really awesome. Thank you, Chetra. I know you're from United Kingdom. Really happy to have you on the show. So here is the gist of the package that I have. It's a simple geolocator. All I did was use Teams Toolkit, created a simple declarative agent. I did not do anything fancy, nothing complicated, nothing kind of intrigue about it. So it gets all built for you. And just remember a few things, that you need to have your M365 tenant and Copilot access enabled with all those details. We do have a Copilot developer camp link. I'm sure the team is adding those links in the chat where you can actually view. You have this entire lab setup, how to work on it. All the details are available. So if you look at the code, the few things that I really changed to get this app or to get this agent running was I changed the icon and I added the capabilities telling this is my SharePoint link. In a minute, I'll show you where my SharePoint link actually lies. Now, these are the instructions that I added. Now, where is this instructions coming, Kamal? So, say for example, if I want to see my score, let's give it. Okay, so these are the few things. I'll come back to explain the scores system again. This was the prompt that I was looking for. And the moment I enter, it tells you how you can score with one clue, what is the points that you earn, with two clues, how much you get, with all the details. Now, where is this details actually coming from? Here. You see here? There's something called instruction.txt file and all the clues are from here. So this is how you can actually build your agent with the adaptive card, with the messages that you display and all of it. And few more things that I've changed is, coming to the JSON file. These are the few things, it's very important. And here is the SharePoint site that I have added. So if you have a SharePoint site, just add this link, give the ID, and then bring it up here in the capabilities. You are good to connect your SharePoint site. Whether it could be a folder, it could be a PDF. Now I'll show you exactly where is the PDF that I added. So I added it in the SharePoint with two details, just two PDF, and I was able to retrieve the Traveler's Dairy PDF here that you can see. I was able to connect with it. So this way, if you have tons of resumes, you have tons of receipts, you have tons of images to be processed, add it, try it out, see how your agent is getting trained, what output you can get instead of having a manual person work, which could be error prone, and you have your agent doing it for you. So this is a very simple game that you can think of. And again, I'm going to start with a new chat, and sometimes you can add more cards, get more in depth into it. Again, I'm going to show you the Copilot developer camp link for you, which is the good point to start. So you can see here, extend, build, declarative agent. And everything is available here from the setup, whatever I've been talking about, installing the Visual Studio Code, Node.js, good to go. And then don't forget, you finish everything, you are eligible for an awesome badge at the end of it where you get to own one. So whatever I've been talking about, the geolocator game, you get to find here the anatomy, what is a manifest file, what is an app icon, because I cannot complete this entire section, which has like almost 6 labs with 3 subsections in an hour. So understand what you could actually do here and take it up slowly, and you can find all of the details. And then, yeah, moving on to the slides, I have just one last deck in order to talk about the declarative part. So let me quickly move on to it. So we are done with the overview. Now the question comes, someone, when and why to use a declarative agent? That's always a question when people come up or get to know information, right? So I would say totally think whether you want to have a control of the orchestrator, foundation models, or the user interface, or you just want to give it to M365 and let it take care of it and you focus on the other part, then go ahead for declarative. Scenarios, really, if you want a layer on top of M365, as I told you, to target a specific scenario, roles, functions, by referring a specific data source and enable specific commands that write back to your application system, then go for declarative. Or else we have a surprise that's next that you will get to know, which is the custom engine agent. And on to you, Paulo.
Yeah, thank you, Kamal. Awesome. So now let's start again sharing my screen. And yes, so far you have seen that you can create agents using Copilot Studio. And by using Copilot Studio, you can target the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, you can target Teams, and when building the Copilot Studio agents, you can have the capability to consume external Power Platform connector or data sources. I see in the chat there are questions about what kind of data we can consume, what kind of documents, and the answer is that, well, you can provide a whole document library or a site or more than one as the data source for an agent. For example, you have seen with Kamal that you can create declarative agents, and again, even in declarative agents, you can use one or more document libraries or site as the knowledge sources, as well as you can use Microsoft Graph connectors. You can consume external APIs through REST with a secured communication channel. So plenty of options. But what if you want to do more? And when I say more, what do I mean? Well, let's say that, again, thinking about the architectural diagram that we have seen already multiple times in this session, you want to think about creating an agent which will rely on your own foundational model, on your own orchestrator, on your own user experience, and so on and so forth. That's what we call a custom engine agent. In a custom engine agent, you can use the foundational model of your choice. So you don't need to rely on the foundational model provided by Copilot Studio if you are in MCS. You don't need to rely on the Microsoft 365 Copilot foundational model, but you can use your own model, which can be a large language model, a small language model, could be whatever you like. You can create your own orchestrator, so you can define the logic behind the scenes of your agent. And of course, you can still define your own knowledge base, skills, and the autonomous part. Then, once you create a custom engine agent with your own components, you can still make it available to your end users, relying on a user experience which is the one of Microsoft Teams nowadays, and the experience will be a bot-like experience, almost like the one that I showed you before in Copilot Studio. Or very, very soon, you will also be able to use the custom engine agents in the experience, in the user experience of Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. This is a functionality which is already under preview, and soon it will become available to everyone out there. So this is the architectural diagram. And now, as you can see, the purple area is basically the whole area except the user experience. And this is the really cool scenario whenever you want to create your own agent having full control on all of the components. When you do that, nowadays you rely on the Teams AI library, and you can rely also on the bot framework. As I said, under the cover, you have a large language model or a small language model of your choice, and you can use any development framework like .NET, JavaScript and TypeScript, or Python. And for the user experience, nowadays the Teams one is the most used one, and you can, in that one, provide really nice user experience, including citation, collecting feedback for the user, and much more, as I will show you shortly. So, again, let me move to my demo environment, and let me show you what you can do in practice with a custom engine agent. And one more time, I will not dig into the actual implementation, but I'm just planning to give you an idea, an overview of what you can do and what is the potential of this technology, so that if you are interested, then you can dig into the topic in a dedicated session that will be in the agenda of this online event. So let me switch again to my demo environment, and specifically I want to show you my foundational model, which is a GPT-4o running in Azure OpenAI. So in this custom engine agent that I'm going to show you, I decided to rely on Azure OpenAI. My agent will be still an agent to help employees in the HR department to select candidates, just to have the same philosophy, the same approach as we did in my previous demo with Copilot Studio. But now we are working with a different set of grounding data, and specifically I have a set of PDFs with resumes of candidates. Here you can see these resumes are in multiple languages. Here we have English, here another language, and here another again. And in these resumes, we have information about the candidate themselves, as well as their skills, their knowledge, their expertise. So the idea is to rely on a custom model to being able to search for a specific candidate with specific skills and knowledge, and to define a short list of candidates that we want to interview. So before using this solution in our agent, let me show you the overall idea, simply relying on the chat playground that we have in Azure OpenAI service. So I can, for example, say, suggest me a candidate who have experience in T-SQL, because I want to find a candidate with that experience. So by providing this prompt in the chat playground, the model I'm relying on will give me back a feedback that Isaac Talbot, who is one of the candidates that I have in my system, is a good choice. And I even get a reference to the PDF of the resume of this hypothetical candidate. Okay, now let's say that we want to rely on this knowledge from our own agent. Under the cover of this model, we also rely on an index that I defined in Azure AI Search, where we indexed all of the PDF documents. And just to give you an idea, we also decided to create a vector-based index. And in fact, if I search for content in this index, I can see that I have all of the files with their name, with their content in multiple languages, and I have the section with the content vector numeric content. So here we have the vector-based index built on top of the actual data of the resumes, so that the model then can rely on this grounding data to provide me an answer. Now, let's say that we want to use it in our own agent. So what we can do, and what we are going to do, is to rely on an agent that I have right here with the user experience in Teams in this example. And here, first of all, if you greet the agent, and you should always do that, you get back an answer that will show you that the agent was able to identify who I am. So we have, one more time, security and authentication in place. So the agent knows who I am, which means that the agent can give me the answer based on who I am, and can also filter the functionalities and the actions available based on who the user is, which is, of course, really important and cool, in my opinion. So let's say that I want to ask this agent to suggest me a candidate which has, for example, a good experience in .NET development. So this is my prompt, and now the agent, still relying on the backend Azure OpenAI service that I showed you before, will give me some hints about some potential candidates that I can rely on. Another few seconds, and here we have the answer. So the suggested candidates are these three people that I see in this output. As we can see, all of them have .NET experience. We can also see that in the custom UI that we built using the Teams AI library and the custom engine agent development model, we can inform the user that the answer is an AI-generated one, which is really important to make the users aware of the fact that the answer is AI-based, so there could even be hallucination because it could happen. We can provide information about the confidentiality of the information that we are providing, like I'm doing right here. We can provide citations, so we can allow the users interacting with our solution to get additional details and to dig into the actual content that was selected by the agent to give me this answer. And I can do that for all of the 3 candidates selected. And I can provide a feedback. So I can say, for example, that this agent is really cool, because it is, okay? And I will submit my feedback. Now, while I am interacting with this agent using the Teams user interface, behind the scenes, we actually have, one more time, a custom solution that I created using Teams Toolkit in Visual Studio Code. And as you can see here in the terminal window, we can see all of the history and all of the session context of the interaction between myself as the end user of the agent and the agent itself and the model behind the scenes. So we have the greeting message, hi there, I'm Carrier Genie. Then we have the interaction where I asked for the candidates with the .NET experience, and we get the response from the engine behind the scenes of our agent with the reference to all of the PDF files and to the actual location of the file in the blob storage account where I stored the physical files that I indexed with the Azure AI search, and all of this stuff, including also the capability to get the feedback from the user so that we can trigger custom actions and do custom stuff when we get a feedback from the user. So as you can see, we have full access to the history of the conversation, we have full control on the model behind the scenes, and we have full control on the orchestrator. And that's so true that if I will go back to my agent, I can even trigger custom actions like, for example, let's say that I'm interested in, I don't know, Isaac Talbot, for example, who is a good candidate for my role. So I can say, great, wonderful, please add Isaac Talbot in the .NET developer candidates list. By providing this prompt, the custom engine agent will trigger, by interpreting the natural language of my prompt, will create on the fly an in-memory list of candidates and will add Isaac Talbot to this list. And that's possible because in the implementation of my custom engine agent, I created an action to do so. And the natural language triggered that action. But I can even do more. I can say that I'm also interested in another candidate. So why not adding the same person to the same list as Isaac? So let's do that, because these are the 2 candidates that I want to interview. And again, I get a feedback from my agent, and I can then even do more. I can rely on additional actions like the following one, which can send the list of selected candidates by email using Microsoft Graph under my own account to the HR department to schedule the interview. So let's do that. By sending this prompt, by sending this prompt, I'm triggering a custom action, which is going to send an email to the HR department. And we can clearly see that because actually I am the HR department. And as you can see here, I have the email that soon will show up here as well, but I already sent it this morning to test the solution. And here you can see I have the email with the candidates and with the request to schedule an interview for both of them. So again, this is really powerful. And under the cover, just briefly, because I don't want to dig into too many details, we simply have an application where we handle all of the business logic or of the orchestration under the cover. So for example, we say that we want to rely on Microsoft Graph in order to send the welcome to the user and to get the name of the user who is consuming the agent, or that we want to manage the loop from the user with the feedback loop functionality. We can configure the label AI-generated content. We can configure the sensitivity label as confidential for the output, and so on and so forth. And we also have all of the actions defined as functions, as TypeScript functions that we can trigger based on the prompt provided by the user in natural language. Clearly here, you have the full power of doing whatever you want to do with your agent. So let me switch back to the slide deck very briefly to wrap up this section. So why using custom engine agents? Well, custom engine agents are really cool and useful whenever you want to rely on your own specific model. So it can be a large language model, a small language model, whatever you like. If you want to use them also with external users who are not necessarily on Microsoft 365, if you want to have a custom user experience where you can fine-tune what you want to provide in the user experience for your end users, and whenever you want to have more control over what you have out of the box in the declarative agents. Let me put it this way. The declarative agents are really, really powerful and useful whenever you want to extend the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat experience. But if you want to do more, the custom engine agents are the answer to your need. You have full control, as I said, to the on top of the orchestration, on the prompt management, the actions, trigger, and planner. And you can also reuse already existing bots and extend them to provide this additional functionality. Plus, and last but not least, you can make your custom engine agents available on the Microsoft stores and sell them or provide them to your customers. So this is really, really cool and interesting. What we showed you today, me and Kamal, as Kamal already briefly shared before, is also based on a set of learning and training material that you can find on the Copilot Dev Camp. This is the URL, aka.ms/Copilot.devcamp, and for your convenience, you also have the QR code. The Copilot Dev Camp gives you a better understanding of the options you have available to extend Copilot in multiple ways. So if you are a maker, you can go on the left side, you can choose the pathway to make your agents, and there you can learn how to use the Copilot Studio Agent Builder, Copilot Studio, which is the one I showed you before, or even the SharePoint agents. I saw a few questions in the chat about the SharePoint agents. You can go to the Copilot Dev Camp, and soon there you will find documentation and training material about how to build SharePoint agents. If you want to be a developer, you can create a declarative agent as Kamal showed you, and you will rely on the Copilot foundational model. Or you want to create your own agent with your own model and orchestrator, as I just showed you, and then you will go for the custom engine agent path. Okay, so plenty of options to build your own agent. That's it, Kamal. I think we are done. We can switch to the Q&A section. Have you seen any interesting question in the chat in the meantime?
Definitely, Paulo. Definitely. There are a lot of interesting questions. And before that, folks, bookmark that link. It's going to be like you'll have to use it day in and day out when you are building it. I think the host is plugging in the links in the comment section. So make a bookmark of it. So we have one question where they ask, like, they really want to understand the difference between Teams AI library, bot framework, M365 agent SDK. Which one should we use for JS? So, Paolo, I'll just go ahead with my thought about it, and then I'll leave so that everybody can share. So definitely that's a great question that we got. There are, like, this is something many developers are asking, I think, as of now, as Microsoft evolves its conversational AI stack, which I see. So what I would say, it totally depends on the use case. If you're building a custom bot for Microsoft Teams, then go ahead with Teams AI library. If it's more, or if you want your solution to behave more like a native Copilot plugin, then go for M365 Agent SDK. So it totally depends on your use case. So that is my take of it. So whether you want to be a part of Azure bot framework ecosystem, then again go for Teams AI library. What do you think, Paolo?
Well, I think that I totally agree with you. I mean, that's the key. So if your target is Teams, the Teams AI library is the right choice for you right now, at least. And as you said, if you want to build agents not only thinking about Teams, then the Agent SDK is or will be the right answer. So stay tuned, and as soon as every single library will evolve, you will see the final outline of the development landscape. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have a very great question, Paolo, because as when I also started, wherever I go to conferences, wherever I do videos, people really get or confused or what is the difference between this Azure AI Foundry, which is the agents, or GitHub agents or Copilot agent. Everywhere it's agent, and what is it all about? So your take on it.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, you have to forgive me because I said Azure OpenAI, but actually I should have said Azure AI Foundry, which is the new name, but I'm still used to use the previous one. But yeah, there are plenty of options indeed. The GitHub agents are those that are integrated with the GitHub development experience. So you can use them, for example, in Visual Studio Code or from GitHub. And their goal is to help developers building solutions in a better way, because they can help you to find the right answer you're looking for, find the good and right code excerpt you want to use in your code, or you can even rely on an agent that will build code for you based on your instructions. On the other side, if you want to use Microsoft 365 Copilot and you want to extend Copilot with those intelligent assistants that we have been talking about in this session, then the Copilot agents are the right answer. Generally speaking, the concept of agent is an intelligent assistant, as I said, that in the context where you are, so it could be GitHub, it could be Copilot, it could be something else, will help you to achieve your goal in a better and smarter way with the capability to do less to achieve more, to reuse a well-known sentence. Okay, so at the same time, Azure AI Foundry is the offering in the family of Azure services that you can rely on if you want to build your own agents or your own AI-based services. So in there, you can then create or deploy your models. You can train your models. You can provide grounding data to your models, and you can then make the models available to your custom developed solutions. So Azure is the back end, and in the front end, you have your own solution, your own system prompt, and of course, the logic that you want to use to interact with your end users. What do you think?
Oh, very true, Paolo. If I was someone who just really want to understand, I would put it as like Azure AI Foundry is a platform. GitHub Agent is again a platform from GitHub Copilot Workspace. Even M365 Copilot Agent, it's a platform. But the difference is actually lies in the purpose. Now, when I say Azure AI Foundry, it's designed to orchestrate complex tasks using multiple tools, prompt, AI model. But if I'm more into a developer experiencing the AI-driven features like coding, task completion, then I would use a GitHub agent. Or if it's more of an M365 Copilot agent, it's more about extending and customizing M365 Copilot with domain specific. So understand your purpose and then think about which agent to use it, and I'm sure you will use it effectively. What do you say?
Yeah, definitely. I also see a few questions about about using SharePoint documents as the knowledge base. For those asking those questions, basically, when you create an agent, whether it is an agent created with Copilot Studio or a declarative agent, you can use the SharePoint documents as grounding data. It can be just single documents that you refer directly. It can be libraries in a document in a site, so document libraries in a site, or can be a whole site or a set of sites. So it is up to you, and it really depends on what is your grounding data. But you can do any of that. So just to give an answer to the question that I see in the chat.
Yeah, very true, Paolo. I think we have one very nice question that nobody thinks about it, but when they start building an agent, this is something that actually stops them, or they are kind of stuck, and which is a kind of a challenge. Someone was like asking about the role-based access control. So, what is the best way to implement? So, what do you think? What are the best ways? I would say it totally depends on the scenario. Usually, a hybrid of Azure AD and Teams App Permission would provide a robust and flexible solution. I believe in it. So, what do you think about it?
Well, you should simply keep into account that whenever you create an agent, whether it is a Copilot Studio agent, a declarative agent, or a custom engine agent, you can rely on Azure Entra ID for authentication. And once you have the identity of the user interacting, consuming your agent, you can then also use the same identity also for consuming backend services, if any. So at the very end, you will be able to have authentication in place and authorization when consuming backend services. So you can definitely rely on role-based authentication and authorization and secure your content when providing content and services with your agents. And that's it. Yeah.
And one interesting question I always have is like the moment I say agent, prompt, model, hallucination. Hallucination is that one word everybody talks about it. So we have one question saying, what are some best practices to prevent hallucination? And how should we approaching building agents to ensure data accuracy? Very true. So I would say preventing everything, there are a few things, but I would start with grounding the AI in enterprise data. First thing, ground the data. Use system. I mean, have a design clear and specific system prompt. That is one more thing. The tone, the style, the domain knowledge of the agent. Limited open end generations, not like a broad queries that you ask. Cite your sources explicitly. That is also another thing. Use content chunking wisely. If you take care of all this, then definitely you can avoid hallucination. Or even state and clear intent mapping. Whether the map with these backend logic, how is it kind of interacting with your APIs, document retrieval flows, or even validation, testing, real user scenarios. If you take care of all this by running simulations with more realistic prompt from the target users, then there is a possibility to avoid hallucination part and make your agent more react to the natural language. Your thoughts on it, Paolo?
Yeah, definitely. And I think then after that we can wrap up. Yes, absolutely. The more the agent is scoped to specific content, the less you will get hallucination. So a good idea is to always give a proper scope and the specific content you really need in your agent without providing additional content, which can give to the agent the option to hallucinate. And at the same time, remember that when you define the instructions or the so-called system prompt for your agent, you can specify in the instructions to do its best to avoid hallucination, to double check the content and stuff like that, so that you help the agent itself to behave better and to give you a better answer just because you instructed it to do so. So remember, be really specific, really clear in the system instructions so that you will help your agent to avoid making mistakes and giving you the wrong answer. So that's another hint that I want to give you. Yeah.
Very true, Paolo. Thank you so much, folks. I think it's time to wrap.
Yeah.
It was great having you and looking forward to what you guys all build on this agent hackathon and looking forward to your innovative solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed today's session. If you aren't registered for the AI Agents Hackathon yet, register now at aka.ms/agentshack and start hacking on the agent of your dreams.
And if you have any questions along the way, just post in our GitHub discussion forum or attend our live office hours in Discord. And of course, make sure that you keep attending the live streams to keep learning about agents.
Once your project is ready, submit it before April 30th at 11:59 p.m. PT to be eligible for our prizes. Thanks for joining.